Okay, here we are. Here we are with the redo of the video that I just spent 20 minutes doing. But it didn't record. Okay. Man, that really ticks me off. There was a lot of ways to approach this video. Being a guy who likes to, be validated, I wanted to bring so many facts that you guys would throw up on them. Because I've read that many. I mean, you might not be able to make sense of that, but it's data. And I feel like I can't have enough of it, but it becomes armor after a while. And now JJ's sitting right in front of you with no armor on it. Here's the thing. I was asked on Facebook recently, what would you do? The CDC's so bad, how would you run the country? If the CDC's running the country? Well, the first thing is I wouldn't let the CDC run the country. I wouldn't let them have policy-making decisions. Act in an advisory capacity. They're scientists, half of them. The other half are bureaucrats. Same thing with the FDA. Both things are important to me. I mean, I want both of them. Having spent time in Cairo, Egypt, eating from, food carts, I appreciate the FDA. I do. But now we have way too many chiefs, it sounds like. And I'm not saying, look, I think Trump is doing a stand-up job considering the unique situation he's in. This is he's a logistics guy. And I appreciate that he's deferring to experts. I think maybe I think he took the wrong advice. And I don't have any alternative advice. Here's what I'm doing, okay? I'm calling, what I want is clarity, and we don't have that now. Nobody does. And so I'm offering you my perspective in the hopes that maybe if I'm missing something, you can add it. I don't even take advice from assholes at this point, because I'm really out of ideas. But I feel like I know what's going on. I'm not a prophet, and I'm not. It's secular counterpart, an activist. Neither one of those things. It's bad, and the bad hasn't happened yet, and it has nothing to do with the virus, which is just doing what it was made to do. I feel like if it had a conscience, it would be sorry. It would apologize, and I would forgive it because Jesus said I have to 70 times, 7 times. It's just a little thing. I mean, that's what's doing all of this damage. Here's some of the perspective, okay? Here are the things that we've been asked. The simple things. The common sense things. The things your mom told you. Wash your hands. Be polite. Because in being polite, you're not going to run around sneezing on people's faces. Or in their food at the buffet. It's rude. And if you're sick, stay in bed and eat some soup. I mean, reams of stats, and that's what we get. It wouldn't even fill a sheet. And we don't even need to write it down because it's in our hearts and minds, because we all love mom. Okay, those make sense. I'll buy those. Here's the not so simple things. Hole up for a month. Don't go to church. Don't go to entertainment events, which is, Caesar would disapprove of this. Make sure I'm recording. Okay, it's happened before. He knows what it takes to keep people happy. In World War II, there was martial law, I think, at some points, at least in the UK, and they had an entertainment. Entertainment was always there. Don't touch other human beings who were made to give and receive touch, or they'll die, essentially. That's what psychology tells us. Put your economy on the altar, everyone. File for unemployment to the tune now, I think, of 6.8 million. Thank God it's there. And here's my favorite. Spend $4 trillion so that we can come back and take it from you with interest. Now, that's how life works. I have no issue with the government getting that money back. We need the services we're paying for, most of them. I'm more libertarian, so there's a lot that I could weed out. And speaking of weed, nope, they're going to move right on from that one. Silver, get a hold of yourself. And here's another thing. In that $4 trillion, we need all your Boeing plants converted so we can make ventilators. And this is what's puzzling to me. Again, maybe I'm missing a piece of information. That only 20% will ever come off of. Matt, my friend Matt, said, well, would I do a surgery if there was this 97% success rate? I probably would. But I would propose this. If it's a 97% success rate, then how sick really were you? I don't know. Again, it depends. Was he talking about the surgery or the illness? I don't know. I know that I've talked to many friends about if I got cancer, having watched my mom battle it twice. Good friend, Sheridan, battle it, and what chemo and radiation can do. I'm already of the opinion I would not take those things. Just give me the morphine, and I will say my prayers. I'll go to heaven anyway, but I just think it's a good idea to leave the earth saying a prayer. That'd be the last thing you think. Is a prayer. It's just safety. Here is why all of this is happening. This is why we don't have clarity. This is why the media has no idea what it's doing or what the hell it did yesterday. Science right now, as much as we hate it, is in the dark. And the only ones that seem to be saying that is science. We don't know yet. Might be airborne. Might be aerosol. Definitely surface. And airborne, that's another thing, by the way. You know damn well that nothing that is in the air was born there. Okay, that almost derailed me. I got to stay on track here. It's called, the press initially when they were doing their jobs, were asking, how's this different from the other virus, right? And then the whole, the flu's killed more people. And then everyone's like, yeah, it did. And then some scientist said something who was writing a book, and all of a sudden everyone was like, whoa, this is nothing close. It's a novel virus. I think it's ironic that he was writing a book, and now we're calling it the novel virus. But what it means is new and unique in concept. It means the virus hasn't bothered to introduce itself to us yet. And thankfully, the CDC is taking the initiative in introducing itself to the virus so that it can classify it and then contain it and then shoot our veins full of it next year. Just like the flu that we still haven't eradicated. It's these kinds of inconsistencies that I'm talking about. And I get it. We're studying it. We can't know the facts until we have them. I'm not presenting facts. I'm presenting fiction agreed upon today. Because I like the quote, I like the phrase, and I think it's truth. I liked it when Pontius Pilate said it. Something that's interesting. So here's an interesting fact you might not know. Yesterday I watched an interview with an infectious disease professor. Apparently very highly regarded. I don't know what that matters. Everyone says very highly regarded. As if those that aren't highly regarded, but spent $300,000 and 8 years in school are less, reliable. Anyway, he said basically, if we had forced quarantine, which sounds an awful lot like martial law to me, but again, a national emergency, but here we are doing these half-assed things. Do we let that, Oklahoma only has one, so yeah. If what you're saying is true, Mr. Trump, if Oklahoma has one case and all the numbers fall off and he decides to visit someone in Arizona, well, here we are back at ground zero again. Either shut it off or don't. This guy actually has a point. Now, in more controversial light, I also think the guy who said we should just do nothing and let the virus run its course. And he got hammered. And he's probably quarantined in his house for other reasons. I wouldn't come out, but I wouldn't stop believing it. When a tree gets struck by lightning in the forest, miles and miles away from any houses, the fire department doesn't rush out there. It's been happening for billions of years, and life comes out of it. I know that the analogy breaks down after a degree, but still, you guys, this whole talk about antibodies and immune. So if we shoot the virus into our vein with a CDC-approved syringe, that's okay. But we can't have the thing going into your veins itself. I don't know. I'm at a loss. I'm missing something, obviously. Because this all sounds a lot like common sense to me. Interestingly, by the way, quarantine means, it has to do with 40 days. And that's because in the Middle Ages, when viruses and plagues that killed half the population of the world, 200 million of 400 million, and no science. And interestingly, a ship that was quarantined was actually being, and this is great because I love this phrase, to know that that's where it came from does my heart good. Means to be kept at bay. I don't know why I couldn't put that together. It just sounds natural. It sounds nautical. That the numbers are going down, okay? Somewhere, not according to the clocks we're reading, But I know that we're getting over a hump when I start seeing politicians pop their heads out of the sand. Oh, look what's broken. The healthcare system. Oh, look, immigration's broken. Hey, how about testing? Hey, why isn't anybody thinking about remotely doing school? There's a lot of talk about our future. We're going to get there in a second. But now you see these politicians arguing at, 6 feet apart, which I think is ironic, considering that that's the distance we put between ourselves and dead people. I don't know what people's obsession with 6 feet is. But that's what we have. Cuomo, who was the guy that I was so frustrated with, I couldn't even listen to his voice in the beginning because it sounded like the guy was trying to run his own country. And he was shoving all of this off on how dare you, Washington, you greedy bastards. You don't have a problem. And then I think he calmed down. I started to gradually listen and enjoy his briefings and he's a numbers guy. I appreciate that. Not that I'm a numbers guy, but I do appreciate someone who takes the time to research. And then I'm going to demonstrate the culmination of my frustration by springboarding off what I told you about Cuomo. Today, I fell in love with him because his brother got this virus and he was quarantined. And so he decided after his briefing, which are watched all over the world, by the way, he invites his brother on and they have this video chat because his brother's still, quarantined. And they started ribbing each other about fishing and, who's just like, Bronx siblings will do. Ripping on each other, just shredding. And, oh, did you do your own haircut today? I see you did your own haircut. And my heart started to just settle. And I was laughing out loud, actually. And they were both getting misty-eyed. And now the real virus comes. Fox News cuts in, and the journalist's face, she says, all right, well, obviously we're talking about fishing now, so we need to get you the news. And it looks like we are now, they have the dang Fox News alert, which happens every time they go to a commercial break. Now one more person is dead. And now, my friends, we're at 5,300 dead. Like she's been sitting there waiting for 5,300 to get there. Okay? That is what is destroying us. Now, people seem to be amicable with each other right now. Maybe 9/11 taught us a lesson. I don't know, but the pattern says that humans forget things really quick. But now people are civil. I do not think that's going to be the case in a week. In fact, history tells us that's not going to be the case in a week. Listen, the media exists for one reason, and that is to fill holes. They can fill it with trash or treasure. It doesn't matter. As long as it's filled, that's what we want them to do, because we do not like holes as Americans. Because holes mean we don't know, and what we don't know we can't control. It's really human nature. It's not even an American thing. And all of this will be brought to you by Roslyn Capital. That's how it works. Fear of the unknown brings viewers and advertisers. I mean, it's a good business model in peacetime. And while we're on that subject, this is a war, right? And this is what frustrates me about that terminology. It's a little bit, there might not be any irony yet, but it's poetic that the generation most susceptible to this is the same generation that jumped out of votes in the 40s and had to shoot at people who were actually trying to kill them. Yes, the virus is deadly. I'm not trying to pass that off. But we forget, if we kill the virus, nobody's going to feel sad. But what we forget about those soldiers that went over there, and some of them, by the way, survived the depression and other diseases with less science, is the fact that these are not hardened serial killers or even warriors. They're 18-year-olds who now have to carry the image of the face of the first German they killed with them the rest of their lives. And that, my friends, is what actually hurts them the most. I mean, yes, buddies dying in their arms, hard to top that on the pain meter. But shortly thereafter, that 18-year-old German was just doing the same thing you were doing. That's what war is. So let's not minimize it by sensationalizing something we don't even have our heads around yet. And that's the other frustrating thing. They keep saying, well, we don't know. This is all theoretical. We're just testing. We're just learning this. And on Theorycraft, we're shutting a nation down. When in World War II, speaking of, when we were very familiar with war, the same production act that we're using, rightly, I think, people came together with an enemy. Well, go look up the lives lost in World War II, and then look up how many lives my hero, Alan Turing, saved. There's 14 million he saved. Now imagine how many were lost. That's a number. In fact, we're going to jump into that number right now. You have to balance liberty with health. And what we've been promised what we expect as humans, and what Christians have been promised by God. And that's where we're going to go next. But first I want to give you some of these. I just want to put some perspective out there, okay? I already told you that the Black Death killed 200 million people. In 1980, the world's population, this was shocking to me, half of what it is today. 4 billion. Today it's 8 billion. 50 million people have died of AIDS. Do I do the French fry thing? I hope so, because I really liked that one. Okay. This is going to be a 40-minute video. All right, I gotta switch.